Okay. All right, so I just want to welcome everybody to the February 22nd meeting. It's 2/22/22. Yeesh. It happens once in a lifetime. That's amazing, right? Like really crazy. 22 is my lucky number, and I'm kind of sad that I'm not up at Mohegan playing the wheel right now. So anyway, we have a lot of things to discuss, but what I really wanted to do is, I know at the last board meeting, hi Rebecca, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. I wanted to, because I've been doing a lot of work with the GEI consultants. I did my presentation. There were a lot of questions, and I really thought it would be beneficial to bring them in. Because it's a big decision for the community. The community is getting educated. We're putting things more online, and I wanted to make sure that we make the best decision. I do want to remind the Board of Trustees that we already voted back in November by a vote of 5-0, by the way, to borrow $10 million. So the money, that resolution has been done. The bid is out. A contract is ready to be awarded, and I want to make sure we are fully informed. At the next board meeting, I'll be calling for a vote. If it's a yay vote or a nay vote to do phase one, we will live with that decision and move on and figure out next plans. But I've invited Verusian. Chuck Hamilton is retired from the DEC. 24 years with the DEC, Chuck?
37.
Oof, I apologize. 37 years with the DEC. The village brought Chuck on to help us work with DEC on the permitting process. I'm happy to announce, before we get into the meat of the presentation, that we were able to get the revised permit for the West Beach project. Thank you, Chuck, for your assistance in helping get that permit through. And today we also sent in a letter of non-jurisdiction for any work that would happen on the upper part of the Upland project. Just so we keep all options open. That letter was sent to DEC today with preliminary plans of a proposed phase 2 project, just for the upper wall. It doesn't include anything else, guys, but I'm trying to just keep that ball moving forward. Verusian, is Mr. Russell with us?
He was supposed to join, so I don't know.
Well,
if he doesn't, that's all right. I can address everything. So
okay, so Verusian and I have been working on behalf of the village of Port Jefferson now. Verusian, when do we go back? 8 or 9 years?
yeah, I think first time we met at the parking lot down about either 14 or 15.
Yeah, and that was when we were doing the seawall. And
Yes, it was after the storm, and we looked at the redoing the seawall and putting the access ramp to the beach.
yeah, so I think if you recall my presentation last meeting, we had done that large seawall, and then we had to do 2 permit modifications for the east end and the west end, and that's when Verusian came in. And I consider him an expert. Does projects like this up and down the eastern seaboard. How many years, Verusian, have you been doing coastal engineering?
About 50 years.
50 years, and
Yeah.
you currently reside on a beautiful. How do you describe Cape Cod? What is that?
Well, Cape Cod is a very similar, like Long Island. It's a result of the last ice age in terms of when it retreated, created all these beautiful sandy forms. And Cape Cod is smaller in size in terms of the Long Island. And it's got a distinctive hook like this, and then it comes up and into Piton at the end. So similar ecology, similar makeup. It's all pile of sand, and we built over it, and then we enjoy it. We love it.
Okay, so Verusian, you put together a little bit of a PowerPoint.
Yes.
And I'm going to kind of let you go through from your eyes, what we've been dealing with, and then we're going to open it up for questions from the Board of Trustees, because there's been a lot of technical questions that have been thrown around, and I don't want to answer them. I'd really rather that the experts answer them, please. So, Verusian, are you doing a screen share, or is my Zoom administrator?
No, I think your Zoom, I sent the PowerPoint to the Zoom administrator.
Yep, I have it all queued up for you. I just wasn't sure if
Yeah.
you wanted to do it. So just let me know when you need me to go to the next screen. Give me
Sure.
a minute to start sharing.
Absolutely. When the mayor allows me to proceed, I'll be happy to walk you through it.
Whenever it's up, Fruition, you have the
All
baton.
right. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to really address Madam Mayor and City Council and all the dignitaries. And I truly feel your pain. Let me say that. Because on a given day, I work on a very similar projects such as yours. And unfortunately, you're not alone in this predicament. I have clients in both islands, on the Cape Cod, on Martha's Vineyard, on in Nantucket, and everybody's going through the process. The unfortunate issue is us as engineers, we know the right answer and the right methodology to help our clients. The problem is the engineering community and science community, we always ahead of about, I would say, 10 to 15 years ahead of our regulators. And I don't say that in a malice. I say that because it's a fact, because they don't allow us to do the right thing so we can do the project and protect assets and do it in one shot. So I will make it very clear. The reason we're having problems with New York DEC and the Army Corps of Engineers, which they are the two major permitting agencies, is if they allow us to do something in here and the right thing, and they know it, then everybody in town, they're going to come and say, well, you allow them to do it. Why don't allow it to us? So they always don't allow us to do the right thing. And they dictate you should do this or that with no basis of science whatsoever. So I'm going to share an image with you in here. And this is what your bluff looks like. This is right now in 22, and you can see quite a bit of erosion. I'm going to take you back a little bit, about 5 or 6 years, 7 years, to show you the makeup of the bluff and how we got over here at this moment. Can we go to the next slide, please? This image, it was taken from an Army Corps of an Engineer report that was done about 10, 15 years ago. They studied the entire area. All the shorelines of Long Island is studied at extent. So there is no surprises in here. You can see Mount Sinai Harbor right in the middle, and you see the two jetties that allow the access in and out to the sound. You see the green area, the sediment surplus. Why do we have a sediment surplus over there? Because the predominant movement of the sand, which we call the long-term littoral drift, is from the east to the west. And as a result, they have a healthy beach over there, and they don't have erosion because that area constantly gets plenty of sand moving from the east to the west. And unfortunately, the east jetty interrupts most of the sand and retains on their side, and we don't get much of it on the west side. So we constantly get erosion. But this picture was taken some time back, and you can see the pink area, which is, we had a very healthy beach, and the beach was wide enough, and the crest, which is the flat portion of the beach, and then this is the face of the beach, it was much higher. And then the west jetty got breached right in that corner over there. And as a result, when the tide comes into Mount Sinai Harbor, as it tries to go out, and instead of going all the way out to the sand, to the sound, it just starts coming in and robbing the village beach and taking it away further to the west. And then that continued until recently, about a year and a half ago, the jetties were repaired. Albert, they wasn't repaired to the point that I would have done it, because they tried to cut costs, and then apparently they didn't have the budget, because I did study that, and Margot remembers, and because that breach was affecting our parking lot to the area and then created a lot of damage, and we had to go back and forth and then do repairs. And finally, last year, we were lucky to get somewhere around 30,000 cubic yards of material that came out of the Mount Sinai Harbor, and they put it in that area, which is a good start. But 35,000 cubic yards of sand, it's not nearly enough. We need about over 10 times as that to nourish our entire beach to prevent any further erosion at the toe. Those two images at the bottom of the slide, on the right side, looking at it, you can see it's a healthy dune crest and a berm. On the left side, where you can see that berm is eroded significantly because no fresh sand is coming, excuse me, along the shoreline from the east towards the west. So that's what happens. Any questions, please feel free to ask, and I'll be happy to stop and then answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So you had mentioned that we had gotten the 30,000 cubic yards of sand from the Mount Sinai dredge. You'd said that 10 times that would help prevent erosion. Do we have an idea of what that project would look like?
Yes, I did it. First time I met Mayor and we talked about it, I said, the best thing we could do is we can nourish the beach, raise the elevation of the crest, and then push the water further out. So when there is a storms and the waves coming, they don't really hit the bottom of the slope, and then that buys us time. But unfortunately, with the sea level rise that we are experiencing throughout everywhere, the sea gets higher, gets closer to the shoreline, and as slope wave action comes in, it chews up that sand and it pushes it down further to the west. And then eventually begins to attack the berm at its toe. And I'm going to show you that cartoon in the next slide.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next slide, please. So again, couple slides down, we're going to show you. You see the project area on the upper right? We had a hefty beach. Look at how thick the beach is in terms of its scale. These drawings about the same scale. And then look at our project area to the lower left. You see, we don't have much of a beach left. Our beach is very thin ribbon. So that means over the years, we've been losing significant amount of sand on the order of about 39 to 40 cubic yards per year. And as that sand goes away, the sea wave actions gets closer and closer to the berm, and it starts attacking the berm directly. Next slide, please. We put a small cartoon together on the left side of the screen, as you can see it. And you can see it's a pretty standard bluff, which we have it throughout Long Island, Massachusetts coastline, even the Cape in here, because it was all the outwash moraine from when the last ice age retreated, and it created those islands and information, and predominantly it's soft sand. Mm-hmm. And then as the sea level rises, up until about 25, 30 years ago, sea level rise was very small, on the order of millimeters per couple of years. But now, with the global warming, which I'm sure everybody reads about it, and then you hear it, and then it's everybody's vocabulary, is you look at the section at B, as the water rises and it gets closer and it robs the sand away and it begins to attack at the toe of the bluff. The bluff is about 100 feet high and it's all soft sand. And then as the toe gets eaten away, the sand cannot hold itself anymore. It's not like a ledge, it's not like a structure. It's a very soft material. So it begins to collapse. And you can see in section C how the entire bluff begins to slide and comes down. This is a very classic erosion of sandy beaches and bluffs made out of sand that we see throughout the Northeast and everywhere. And then you end up in a D, where now the top of the bluff retreated significantly on the order of about 15, 20 feet per year. And then the cycle continues all over again. In addition to this low cycle, any significant rain that comes down from the top, the parking area and all that, that comes over the bluff, it saturates that sand. When the sand gets saturated, it gets very heavy. And when it gets heavy, it's kind of can't hold itself anymore. And at that very high, it almost becomes like jello, and then the entire thing just slides down. Now, that's the story. Unfortunately, based on the science and the observations and all the studies that been going on the last 15, 20 years, the projection to the Northeast is we are gonna have much more rain compared to the average 45 inches of rain we get. Our projections are that we are gonna go, we're gonna have on the order of about 70 to 75 inches of rain from now going forward. It is positive. We're not gonna run out of fresh water, unlike California, which they're having drought everywhere else. But however, when that rain comes in, it's coming, it's a much intense, very heavy downpours. When rain comes in, very strong, it saturates the ground. And unfortunately, when it saturates that bluff, and then the entire bluff begins to fail. Any questions?
No.
Yeah,
Please.
just 45 inches of rain, you were saying is the standard you
Is
are,
our average.
right.
Right.
You would project it's going to what again?
The scientific community is telling us we are going to look forward to having 75 inches of rain annually going forward. And we're already experiencing that.
All right, and when you have rain at the top and you have runoff, I had suggested at the last discussion of this issue that we put sandbags up there to keep the water from running off as rapidly. And is that a good strategy or not a good strategy?
It's not a sandbag. Sandbag does not do it. What you need to do, we need to interrupt the sheet flow from the parking area and redirect it so it doesn't come and goes over the bluff and saturates the area and then creates the sloughing. Now, it's an easy process. We will interrupt all that water through catchments or French drains. I don't know if you've seen French drains. They are very longitudinal. Water comes in, we catch it, we divert it somewhere else, and we discharge it back to the sea, but we're not allowing it going over the slope, so it creates the additional erosion. That is going to be done, should be done part of the project.
I have a question.
Larujan,
Yes, please.
Larujan, it's Joe. I just want
Yes.
to let you know, and I think you know this, we are working with another engineer on
Yes.
drainage on the eastern side of the facility there. So that is in the process. And they
Yes,
are in the process of designing a drainage system for that section of the country club.
yeah. Thank you, Joe, for reminding me.
And so, and Rebecca had a question. It's easier if we could raise hands or something, because I can't really see because of the screen share, but Rebecca had a question?
Yeah, thank you. So if the secondary form of erosion was to be addressed in any number of ways from the upland to prevent the sand from saturating and to prevent the flow over the face of the bluff, I know, the predictions about sea level rising, going back to the primary form of erosion graph here, what is the relationship between the rate of sea level rise and the timeline between going from D back to A? And sort of the end thought would be, is there a time at which we would see this bluff sort of even out for a time? As in figure D there?
Good
for figure
question.
94?
Yeah, the latest study that just came out of NOAA, which is National Oceanic Administration, they are predicting we're going to have 1 foot sea level rise between now and 2050. That's 20 years out, 25 years out. That's a significant sea level rise. So if that happens, it's not going to stop. Their projection is by the end of this century, we could realize as much as a 6 feet sea level rise. That is scary. If 6 feet sea level rises, where I'm sitting now in my basement, water will be above my head. And I mean, that's a serious thing. However, the Army Corps of Engineers, they did a comparable study, and this is not an exact science. It's a projection based on samples and all of the studies that goes on, how fast the glaciers are going to melt, so on and so forth. But the entire community is closer to saying it is by the end of this century, we could realize easily 3 feet sea level rise. That is still a significant amount of sea level rise. And if that happens, not only this bluff is going to be in trouble, a lot of the communities all over the coastal communities are going to be in trouble. And allow me to explain. Sea level rise is not attributed only to the glacier melting. The global warming is increasing the temperature of the sea. And when the temperature of the sea goes up for every centigrade, there is a thermal expansion in the water itself. So it's not just a single factor, it's a combination of factors. So there are predominantly 3 factors. The melting of the glaciers, which is going to pour all these waters into the sea and then going to rise the water. The water temperature of the ocean is warming up, so it's going to expand. That's going to add to the elevation of the sea. And then, believe it or not, we are experiencing subsidence of the land. Because what do? Where do we get our drinking water? We have groundwater. We take groundwater out from the ground. We're not replacing it by taking the groundwater out. And as we take the groundwater out, the entire ocean or the land begins to subside. So these are proven factors, all the 3 components, and it's going to create a lot of problems, unfortunately, for engineers. And everybody is going to be in harm's way. So the timing, how quick we can go from C to D to A, it's all subject to these very intensive coastal storms that we get. Every year, I'm sure you hear that they're predicting we're going to have 50 named storms. We are only 100 days away from the hurricane season. Hurricane seasons now start earlier, and they end up stopping into late November, early December. So the entire spectrum is changing. And the most damaging storms that we would get in the Northeast is not hurricanes, it's nor'easters. We get nor'easters in April, we get nor'easters in the winter, we get nor'easters in the summer, and that's what creates the mayhem for us. So the timing, no one can predict. It's an accelerated timing compared to yesteryears of 30, 40 years ago. When I started my career about 50 years ago doing these things, erosion was in no one's vocabulary. But we have the proof. We study the oceans. We have satellites. We do cores all over the world and things like that. And then the scientific community is very serious, and they're sending all these alarms for us engineers to work together and try to see what we can do. We have to stay in put, fight it, which that means protection, or retreat. Everybody's beginning to think about retreat. If we can't protect things, then we should consider about retreat. And in other cases, when there is no facilities in harm's way, say do nothing. Which all of these are options on the table.
Okay, let's move forward.
Okay, next slide, please. This is the image where I met Margot, the mayor, on the at the beach. You look at the upper left side, look how wide the beach is, and then look how densely vegetated our slope was, Margot. I took this picture and I dated everything, and I have all of them. Every time I visited the site, I always documented with picture. And then look at the other picture recently, I guess 2 years later after that, when we started looking in terms of repairing the walls. As you can see, even in the winter time, when the entire area has got snow, when it gets thawed and the entire thing comes in sheets, you get about layer of sheets and slides down. And once the vegetation is done, it's gone and dead. There is no more root mass to hold that sand together. So every time there is a big rain or a storm, that sand gets saturated and slides down the beach. Next slide, please. We did a survey and we computed. You see all these numbers on the plan? Those are all sections we took. And we did an analysis which shows you 16.55 linear feet of retreat, both on the toe and on the top of the bluff. That is significant amount of erosion. So, I mean, the numbers speak to themselves. And 30,700 cubic yards of material lost in this period. It's pretty significant. Next slide, please.
Just quickly, where does that material go then? If the next place is our harbor, is it going into the harbor?
Good question. That material slides down to the top of the beach, and the next big storm comes in. When the storm comes, if you really like to see what the storm does, when I was a young engineer, I don't want to digress. I used to take my camera, and every time there is a hurricane and coastal storms, I used to run to the shoreline and take pictures and observe and see what's going on. We did observe, and a couple of the coastal storms that we had at the village, the water was as high as the parking lot. So when that water is high as a parking lot, that's elevation 11 or 12. And the crest of our beach is at elevation 5. So you got 6 feet of water is coming and going way over the beach. So that means that attacking all that sand, and with the currents running from the east to the west and the prevailing winds, it takes all that sand and it takes it away and pushes it down into the west, and it takes it back into the deep sections of the water, of the sound. We call it, yes.
That's probably why our West Beach is a nice beach that everybody likes to go to. It's got plenty of sand on the west side, West Beach.
Yeah. So that's the process. And unfortunately, it continues to happen. That's predominant winds and storms and things in this particular area. And it's been studied not just by us, by many, 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 many institutions. Next slide, please. So again, I want to show you, look at how the slide happens. The image on the left, as you can see, after you get a major slide, the sand, just with the normal rains and winds and things like that, it smooths out. It becomes like a, you know, let's say, And the image on the right, it wasn't immediately after a failure. You see how the sand just like runs down
Yeah,
right in the middle of the picture and on the left side, right side of the picture? Those
Yep.
are two major slides, which you take a lot of sand comes from the top all the way down to the beach. And then next to storms takes that sand and take it away and the cycle continues. Next slide, please. Similarly in here, as you can see, as we continue to get erosion, we pretty much losing all of the vegetation on the bluff, and it's all going down, and we continue. The cycle continues. Unfortunately, it's not happening once or twice a year. It's happening many, many times a year. And these are pre-Hurricane Ida and post-Hurricane Ida. Next slide, please. And look at this. Look how massive this is. This happened in one storm. Look at the top of the bluff. You can see the fence where the tennis courts are and the lights. And I think, Joe, already one light has been removed from the corner because it was ready to fall by itself, correct?
It was removed from the face of the bluff.
Yeah, right. So as you can see, we do have a significant problem. Now, let me address what's our available options. I would say if I have the sand available, either in the sound or somewhere, and I can bring it in here and nourish the beach at a tune of 350,000 to 400,000 cubic yards material, that will be my first very initial step. Because what will happen, I will offset the sea level rise, I will put the sand in there, raise the beach elevation from elevation 5 to 10 or 12, and then push the sea further out. And that way, provide protection to the bluff. Unfortunately, we don't have the sand. They won't allow us to dredge the sound and bring the sand and putting it in here. And trucking sand into this area, it is prohibitive. It will be in the tens of millions of dollars. And of course, once you do it, you're gonna do it every 5 to 6 years to maintain the area. So we looked at that, and that was non-feasible. Next, the option that everybody knows, do nothing. If you do nothing, this kind of an erosion, it's going to continue, and it's going to continue on the annual basis. And based on our calculation and estimate, we can see that the building will be totally damaged or gone within 30 to 5 years. And that's not a, I'm not trying to scare you. These are realistic calculations that we made.
so Veruja, I'm sorry, you said if we do nothing, the building is going between 3 and 5 years, not 35, 3 and
Yeah.
5.
3 and 5, the building will be gone, half gone, or uninhabitable, and you won't be able to use it.
Okay.
You have to condemn it, and you won't be able to use it. The other option is, of course, you build the new building.
Can I,
further back. Yeah.
I'm sorry, before you move to the upland options,
Yeah.
can you talk about, we talk about the building, of course. If we do nothing, can you tell me a little bit about beach access, the beach road?
Yes, thank you for reminding me that. Not only the building will be destroyed and gone, even the access, the road access to come down to the beach, we will be impacted. It will continue to erode and will be damaged. So if we don't do anything to protect the building, we have to take some measures to protect the road that gets you down to the area. And then that's going to be costly, but it's not going to be as costly as the projects we have in front of you.
And do you have based on what you've seen, Verusian, do you have an idea on the timeline of that, of the road issue?
If, once that bluff continues to go back and then the building deteriorates, what's going to happen, the roadway is going to stay what it is and the bluff is going to retreat. So now you're going to get impact from the side, because from the flanks. And then that's going to accelerate the erosion of the road. So we have to do something, and repairs could be as much as $1 million to protect the roadway coming down to the beach.
All right, thank you. That was one of my new questions.
Sure.
I'm sorry, you were then starting to say Upland.
The other option is you like to use the building this summer for activity. It's a place to go for the community and a lot of things. You get some rent from it. To relocate the building is as expensive as building a new building and then demolishing the old one. Because the building is older, it's got some issues. Relocating it, we looked at into the cost. It's very expensive to retrofit or relocate buildings. So one option is you build a new building somewhere else further back, and then you take the building down. That's another option. A third option is you build the lower wall only. What will that give us? Had the DCR, the regulators allowed us to build the lower wall to the studies that we did, we would have slowed the erosion of the embankment significantly. We proposed to build the lower wall to elevation 24. Why we wanted to do that? And build a robust breakwater or a riprap in front of it. We wanted to prevent and the water coming in and overtopping the wall and creating erosion. And of course, they didn't allow us to do that. Instead, we presented to them studies, wind setup, storm surge, overtopping. We did all that and provided all that information to them. They turned around, they said, no, we're not gonna let you do that. We're only gonna let you to build the wall to elevation 14 and put a little bit of a rock in front of it. We said, really? Based on what? Well, that was an arbitrary solution, and that's what they gave us the permit to do. Hence, we're going to build a wall on the bottom. It's going to prevent erosion from the toe. It's going to help, but it's not going to help us to prevent the entire embankment from continuing to erode from the top. And that's why when we met, we sat down, put our heads together, and Mayor said, what are we going to do about the building? We said, we need to building a top wall in combination with the lower wall so we can protect the building. And that's where we are today.
So Verusian, if we were only to do the lower wall, as you mentioned, it doesn't solve all the upland problems.
No,
But do I buy any longevity?
I would say, yeah, we looked at it, Margot. It's about 2 to 3 years at the most.
In addition to the 3 to 5 years, so that becomes 5 to 7 years for the building?
No, because that lower wall, it's only going to protect the toe. This slope is about 100 feet high. I mean, imagine 100 feet and putting a small wall on the bottom. It's that rain, it's going to super saturate that sand, and it's going to come down, and we will end up covering the lower wall with sand until a natural process comes in and takes it away and then exposes the lower wall, and the process continues.
Right, so let me repeat my question. So if I do the toe wall,
Right,
and then we upland, some drainage as you had suggested,
right.
and I don't do a wall behind the building,
You will get some additional, I don't know, again, it's a guessing work, really, because it's all subject to how many storms we get.
right?
As I showed you in the slides, one storm created a massive erosion. I mean, if we get 2 or 3 of those storms in the next 3 years, that 3 to 5 year period is going to be very short. It's going to get a lot less. So I can do the calculations for amount of rain given per square foot and this and that, but I can't predict how many storms we're gonna get.
Right, okay, so in your professional opinion, then, we need to do the toe wall. And then
Yes.
we want to save the building,
Right, and the road coming down to the parking lot.
right? Right, well, if we did the toe wall, that would,
That's gonna,
that would preserve the roadway.
yes, it will help the roadway significantly.
Right, but if I need to do the toe wall and then I need to do the upper wall to secure the building, and if we did both walls pursuant to your recommendations, what longevity do I get out of the building?
Well, the building should be there 35 to 40 years. We are designing that wall to really protect that building. And what's going to happen if the rest of the embankment continues to erode, and it will, the building will be like a little peninsula. So you're going to be standing in the building and you're going to look on your left side and right side, and you may see water 35 years from now.
Wow. Okay,
If we do both the lower and the upper and the
Guys-
vegetation,
hands first, so go ahead, Kathy Ann.
what type of maintenance is there for these walls and the vegetation between now and those 35 years?
Good question. When we do the lower wall and the upper wall, what we're doing in the process, we're flattening up that slope in between the two. And we are going to go ahead and plant it. Planting is going to help to slow down the erosion. And the better we establish the plants and the deeper roots that we can have into the soil, the longer that stays in put. Now, it's going to slow it down, and maintenance, it's going to be minimal. Every time you get a little localized erosion, if you go out there and replant it and protect it, and little maintenance goes a long way in terms of protecting it. But if you don't do anything, then eventually the erosion will compound and it gets worse and worse. But those walls are designed structurally to hold that building, even if that slope continues to erode.
Great, thank you.
Yes, please.
In your describing the fact that the cliff will continue to erode even if there's a bottom and a top wall, that sounds like the beach access road would not be protected?
No, the lower wall is designed, we're bringing it and tying it to where we put that access ramp, and then we reinforce that area. Once we do that, that's going to protect the access road for quite some time.
But which I can envision that, but if the building is sort of in a peninsula over the rest of the eroding sand, and then the road is over here,
Right.
I feel like if sand is coming out over here at some point, even maybe higher up in elevation, the
Good
road might be
question.
compromised.
Because of the way we're doing it, you're going to get less erosion between the building and the roadway. The majority of the erosion is going to be towards the west. So your tennis courts that you have west of the building, they completely will disappear. If you lose about 15 or 16 feet per year, just do the math, how much more you can lose. Now, we made the wall, we're trying to minimize the cost, and we put some what we call flanks for the walls. We brought them at 45 degrees. Now, in the future, if the erosion continues to accelerate, those flanks on the sides can be extended further and further, hence forever protecting the building, and the rest is being eroded.
And so again, the idea is just to encapsulate the building first and then build out flanks if we want to, if we continue to, build more ball courts and things of that nature. But we got to get that price point, that sticker shock first.
Right. Now, I mean, somebody will look around and say, we do all these things. What's going to happen, the bluff all the way down, it's going to continue to erode. A couple hundred feet down from where we are, there are buildings on the top of those bluffs. Those buildings are going to be in jeopardy. So the owners of these buildings, sooner or later, everybody's going to wake up. It's going to go to the regulators and say, what's up? What are we going to do? We're going to just continue to let Mother Nature take everything away. Now, I did a study. This is again on the sidebar for the island of Nantucket. As you all know, Nantucket has got a special real estate and all these millions of dollars of houses. Those are $30, $40 million houses, compounds on top of the same similar situation as you are. Those people, they pay hundreds of thousands of dollars real estate taxes per year. And then they use those houses 2 months out of the year, 3 months out of the year. They don't contribute. They don't have kids in the schools. They don't need police escorts and all that other stuff. But if you lose those houses that they are paying more than 50% of real estate taxes for the community, how does the community is going to survive? At some point, nationally, we're going to say, protect, hold the ground, at which we can do that. It's got, pros and cons for it. Retreat. How far do you retreat? You retreat and sea level is going to come and continue to take it away, or do nothing. Then community starts falling apart. Something is going to give in the next 5 to 10 years. We all going to have to come together and say, we can't work against each other anymore. Scientific community, engineering community, and the regulators going to get together and say, we got to do something, agree, and not just continue to kind of fight each other and get nowhere.
Brian?
Yes, please.
The question on the logical ends of where we would construct this, do the wings on the two sides of where we're going to stop the project, does that accelerate or amplify the erosion on those two sides beyond where we're going to stop the project?
Not really, because again, that's going to happen slowly. And again, we got to do something. I mean, I would rather take those walls, if money was not an issue, take it all the way down and then really protect the entire property that you have, 500-600 feet. But
So,
we have limited
sorry.
money.
So importantly, I just wanted to update everybody. Joe and I were on a call with the FEMA, the people who've been helping us with the FEMA grants. They denied us on the toe wall. We're appealing that, but they definitely said that we were going to make 2 applications for the upland portion of this, because this is really hazard mitigation for the upland portion. And because we don't have a bid and we don't have job, it's not like the toe wall where we're ready to put a shovel in the ground.
Right.
We have time to make those applications. I think they said they were due April 1, Joe, they think that we are a perfect example of how we need to use this federal hazard mitigation money for the upland portion. So
Yes,
you want to,
Mayor, April 1st is the deadline for the submission.
and you,
Joe,
We will have our application in way before that.
Right.
Yeah.
And we are at 95% design and the upper wall. So we should be able to give you plans and documentations to accompany that applications. So we are working towards that end.
Even if there's substantially complete erosion, it's fine. Whatever
Yeah,
you have currently is sufficient according to Department of Homeland Security.
Yes,
Do you,
we-
I'm sorry.
No, please. I reviewed it with the team this past week. We are making significant stride, and we should have a package for you within a week or 10 days.
Okay, so we are also, we did get a portion of the Upland Topography survey in late last week. So as requested, we're trying to put together a comprehensive plan for the upland portion, to do drainage, address, some of the recreational assets, and give everybody an idea of what phase 2 looks like. Do we have any other questions for Verusian? Because I think I really want to thank you, Verusian. I have full faith in you, and
By all means.
I know that you've spent countless hours with us, and I really appreciate your fight in trying to get us as much as we possibly could to help support the base wall, and that the delays were driving us all crazy. And I don't know, Chuck, do you want to weigh in? You want to comment in your 37 years of experience with the DEC? You want to comment on our situation? Give us a nutshell version.
I definitely think we need to do the whole toe of the bank. I think we need to go there and get that approval done. We need to get that approval and go forward. The agency, the regulations haven't changed, the people have changed, and I think that's what you're dealing with. As Rujan says, the not seeing where we're going to be 5, 10, 15 years from now is what the people who are doing the regulatory thing are missing. The application, the way these applications were reviewed was much more conservative than they have in the past, especially in light of sea level rise. I mean, the agency has a sustainability. We're supposed to be looking at that. They're looking at living shorelines, but this is not a living shoreline area. So, I mean, this is an area that, I think we still have an option to go back and say, you know what? Do the right thing this time. Don't do what happened last time. Not go 4 years through the process. I don't see any reason when you're losing 16 feet over a 3-4 year period, you can't get a structure that is an engineer, with Ruden's expertise says, it's got to be this way. I understand they don't want to see a 24-foot wall, and I'm sure it's not because of an adverse impact, because remember, this permit is a tidal wetlands permit. There's no adverse impact to the resource. There's more open space and aesthetics, if I had to say anything, how they made that decision. But this is the kind of stuff that at a certain point, you can go with the agency, or you can say, you know what, let me go to hearing. I'll testify why it's reasonable, why it's necessary, why it's not going to have an undue adverse impacts upon the associated tidal wetland benefits of Long Island Sound. But that's a permit you needed. You needed a tidal wetland permit. You did not need a coastal erosion permit, because the administrator of the CHA program is the village themselves.
Yeah.
So, I'm not, was it a wrong decision? I agree with Ruden. It's a wrong decision. You should have did the whole project.
Thank you.
Seems low if you're looking at a 30-year, 40-year project. That's what it seems to me. But you got to go with the experts, the guys who do it every day.
Margot, if I make two points. We designed the lower wall in anticipation that, as Chuck said, in the future, we can raise it.
Right.
So we can raise it with a minimum, not as expensive process, because we're doing the wall structurally sound. We can really increase it by 5 to 6 feet easily without spending too much money. The second issue is when you combine projects together, there is a good measure of economy in that. If we do the two projects separately, it's going to cost us quite a bit more because of the mobilization and demobilization. So it is a wise decision on the village part to really combine the two walls together, because we'll be able to get a better price for doing both at the same time.
Interesting. Okay. Are there any other questions for everybody? Bruce, any questions?
No.
Rebecca?
I'm curious to hear a little bit more about the project that would protect the beach access road, as in comparison as another option to the entire toe wall, to the double wall. How much has that been looked into? What is the lifeline projected for that?
Once we do assuming we go forward with the project with the lower wall and the upper wall, that's going to protect that area because it's creating a nice really niche in that area. And then when I did the access ramp, I put some sheet pile in there and I tucked it into the embankment. So we're going to come back and then tie to that. So it's going to protect it.
Yeah, I don't think, Bruce, I don't think that's her question. I think her question is, if we did not do an upper or lower toe wall, what's involved in saving the access road?
Well,
Thank
you're
you.
going to do a similar sheet pile bulkhead and a lot of riprap, and it could cost anywhere between $1 million, $1.5 million alone.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sorry, not understand. Yes, please, Bruce.
We talked about the two wall plan at the last meeting, and we were talking about $5 to $10 million. Are we still talking in that range? Do we have a finer idea as to what the cost will be on that plan?
So we put the lower wall out to bid and the low bid came in at, is it 4.8 or 5, Joe?
It was,
4.8,
4.8. So,
4.8 million.
and then based on a preliminary draft of the Upland wall and using the unit pricing for the lower bid, the pricing unit per unit, we were looking at another approximately, what was it, 3.25 version for the upper
Yeah.
wall?
yeah, I think the issue of 10 million is about right. We hope
Yeah.
that by combining the two of them together, we're not doing a multiple mobilization, demobilization. We'll be able to get a better bids coming in, hopefully. So that's our target right now. And we should be able to have a better number in about 2-3 weeks when we finish up the entire package, get it 100% ready to go out.
I just have a question though on that no version. We're getting really, really close to the 25-foot boundary between the building and the crest of the bluff. You just mentioned we're a couple months out of hurricane season. We know the steel is with the low bidder, the steel is available. He's actually holding the steel for us until mid-March.
Yeah,
And so that's not, if we go out, if we put both bids together, we go right back out to bid, we're probably not looking at getting this project underway till the fall. And I have a very important question for you, and I know you don't have the crystal ball. What do I risk waiting 6 or 7 more months? It's taken me 4.5 years to get to this point. I've lost 16 feet in 4.5 years.
Yeah.
So Mayor,
is-
before
We will-
Rujan responds,
please.
I just, one other thing that we need to get clarification about with respect to waiting to do both at the same time is our application for this hazard mitigation grant program, because I don't want to jeopardize losing potential funding for the Upland wall by waiting to do this.
And put it together because already, yeah.
Correct. So this application basically has to be approved by them before we can move forward. We can do some preliminary work in advance of the submission and their review, but I just want to make sure that we don't jeopardize the potential for money here.
Absolutely. I mean, again, when we finish everything together, we have to look at the sequence. When we submit the application, how much time it's going to take for them to approve it, how much we should wait, because we'll be ready to go to bidding again and going through the cycle and doing the advertisement. You got to allow 21 days officially for bidding time for everybody to put things together.
Right,
And-
but the tricky thing about when you go for the grant money is we can't go out to bid and be poised to put the shovel in the ground. You have to wait till we have a decision.
Correct.
So it gets really tricky because we were already disqualified with the lower wall because they said it's an ongoing issue. Whereas the Upland issue is not, it's an immediate issue, it's not, but
Yeah.
if we time together, that might take us back out of the box again. I'm not really sure because, we're trying to appeal that decision, but the representatives from FEMA said basically, we'll appeal the lower wall, but you got to go for the upper wall because that one we know is going to, be a perfect candidate for the federal hazard mitigation bucket. It's like $293 million in this bucket of money waiting to be dispersed. So they felt very strongly that this was a really good candidate based on what we're dealing with.
Right.
Well,
And I want, I'll definitely go back and get clarification from them, but to jeopardize some additional funding for a double mobilization versus potentially getting a significant amount of money in grant proceeds to do the project, we may, want to treat these as two separate projects. I don't know if we can make that submission as one, but again, I'll get all that clarification from them next week sometime.
Yeah. The good thing is, as soon as we get a yes, we don't have to build the lower wall first and build the other one. We can switch them. We can start with the upper wall and build that and then come back and then build the lower wall. So they're not really tied together.
Right,
But
right.
if the reason if we combine them together, it's the same, one contractor is already mobilized, is gonna build both, and we can move them, say, do
So-
this one first, do that one next.
Guys, we've taken a tremendous amount, we've taken an hour, and I really, really, really appreciate your time, because this is it's a complicated project. Rebecca, you have one more question, and we're gonna move on to our business agenda.
Okay, thank you. Just trying to get my mind around the cost of everything. The costs that have been discussed have not included any upland work, which is extensive drainage, any of that to stop the water from coming over the edge and also super saturating the sand. Is that correct?
Correct. That's because it's another engineering firm is doing that, so I don't know the extent of their work, so I don't know how much that's gonna cost.
Sure.
That will be in addition.
Thank you. Do we have any of those estimates?
As I said, as part of this discussion, we just got the topography map last week, Rebecca, so Holzmacher is working with that. But what they need to see is erosion. At some point, they need to see the design for the upland wall, because they
Sure.
really need for that wall where you're anticipating putting that wall. I don't know if you share or not yet, Joe, with them, but
Yeah.
because that has impacts on where the drainage can go and the plantings and everything else. So it's kind of like, working the two projects together. Does Holzmacher have an idea, Joe, on timing for us?
It's supposed to be, he said probably 2 or 3 weeks. So, I'll push him to get that design to us.
Okay.
And Joe, we will be happy to share the drawings with them and having a meeting with them, walk them through, collaborate, make sure that everything goes properly.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And Margot, we still like that new planting thing from that university. I would love to explore that.
So
And
so we met with some engineers, or had a conversation with some engineers who have this new steroids product, if you will. I shared the information with Laura. She has the
Okay.
contacts at the State University to see if we could use that new hydro, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But Laura, I assume, is connecting with them and working on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. A lot of moving pieces on this, guys, a lot of moving pieces. But I really appreciate, Verusian, your time. I wanted them to hear, a lot of these details from you. Chuck, thank you for your time. Thank you for your assistance with the permits and everything else. And as I informed the board, we did submit the letter of non-jurisdiction to DEC for the Upland project. That's really important, because if I'm looking at getting permits again, we're looking at a couple of years to try and get a permit. So we're trying to avoid that. So I appreciate everybody's time. And thank you for, your support of the Village of Port Chaffin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. So just want to follow up on that one topic. The last thing we did was also speak to Engelbright and Senator Palumbo's office, because I was telling them that we'll be forwarding to them a letter requesting that the bond amortization period goes from a 15-year amortization to a 30-year amortization. They are both well informed about the project that we're dealing with, and they said that they would support that. That'll help us just if we don't get any grant money, offset any costs. Like, I'm not a fan of borrowing money for any length of time, but it'll help offset cost to the taxpayer at any rate. Okay, we're going to move on with our business agenda. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, thanks.
Okay, first order is the minutes from February 7th as presented by Clerk Sakovich. Anybody see any additions, amendments, add-ons, or corrections?
Okay, by me.
Okay. Guys, this is another great project we have going on here, 2 and 3. Joe, you want to talk about this drainage basin? Kathy Ann went on a
Hike.
field trip to walk this. It's a tremendous area. We had a major blowout, and this one project, it is so unsexy. I'm going to use that word. It's costing us approximately $928,000, folks. $928,000 to build this discharge basin. These types of things are just, not ways I would want to spend anybody's money. But Joe, you want to talk a little bit more about this one for us, please?
Sure. So you'll see in agenda item number 2, that is the professional fees from our consultant Grosser to prepare the short-term and long-term design to repair this recharge basin. Item number 3 is the work that our contractor DF Stone will be performing under the Suffolk County contract. The number is stated there in the action item. This is a multi-phase project that extends a significant amount of property from Old Post Road down to Old Homestead Road down to Oakwood Road. That's the extent of the landmass that we're talking about here. It's going to require the removal of thousands of cubic yards of fill that has been spread across the recharge basin and down towards Oakwood. They're going to have to restore the berm around the recharge basin up at Old Homestead, requiring bringing in the additional fill to restore that. They'll be installing riprap and core logs along that basin as well to stabilize that area. Down at the bottom by Oakwood, they're going to be installing a settling basin because over time, because of this extreme washout, debris will continue to run down that area that's outside of the actual basin and get caught up in the settle basin that we will have to have removed from time to time. So this area will require some maintenance over time, plus the installation of several drainage structures up in the recharge basin itself, and then also down by Oakwood. As with the rest of the projects and issues that we had that occurred during Tropical Storm Ida, we do have this as part of our application into FEMA. And hopefully this portion of our application will be approved and we will receive hopefully up to 75% of the overall cost for this project, plus consulting fees.
Yeah, there's no question that this was brought on by that one heavy rainstorm. And the recharge basin may have been, how can I say, maybe not functioning properly, but that one storm just blew out the whole.
Correct.
The whole basin. So, yeah, that's what caused all that damage to the asphalt on the bottom of Oakwood Road, all that debris.
Well, you also have, older engineering from the original design. As we were just talking about with the bluff, we have systems that are coming in that are releasing a tremendous amount of water that we're not used to collecting. And, this project here will hopefully prevent that from happening again.
Joe, do you have a status on the surveys and legal description of the 2 sumps?
Well, I sent the legal description over to you for the small sump and then the portion of the larger one. And I believe you were looking into with the town of Brookhaven, that second portion.
Yeah, they don't have anything. So it's on us if you have that survey.
I do have the survey and I will share it with you. I sent it over to you.
Brian, it's not a survey that has meets and bounds.
Oh.
It's just one of these drone surveys that they're doing that outlines the topography, but it does not have meets and bounds.
Okay. All right.
No, but
Joe, I thought you after the meeting what I need.
Grosser is putting that together for us, Mayor.
Oh, they're going to add meets and
Legal
bounds to the
Yes.
document? Okay.
Okay. That's what I need for both of them.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anybody have any questions on that? It's unfortunate, but these are the things that we need to address.
So we're looking for FEMA funds. I think, what was the percentage, Joe, that we might receive on that? 45?
75.
75. Okay, great. And otherwise, where does that money come from in the budget? Just out of curiosity.
So we don't have, we do have a surplus, but we are not going to use the surplus all at once. We would have to do a bond anticipation note, Rebecca. And then, you know, depending on what we decide to do about the Bluff project, that would either, you can roll it over, Denise, forgive me, or chime in, 5 times you can roll that over, then we have to bond, correct?
Correct.
So we have to, you know, we have to borrow the money.
Thank you.
You know, it's like the $1 million rainy day fund around, no pun intended. Carter Lance, we're looking at a minor modification to the contract for the rocket ship bathroom project. That's like the never ending project.
Yes,
Joe,
it is. So I am not happy to bring this before this board for approval. As Holtzmarker put this was an inadvertent omission from the plans. I'm not sure how they did not pick it up, or the contractor did not pick it up before this stage in the project, because one of the main reasons we were renovating these bathrooms was to create a scenario where everything was touchless and automatic. And in this situation, the design failed to include for the fixtures in the bathroom, the sensors for auto flush.
Sorry,
So
I'm really laughing. You have an engineer, an architect, a contractor, went out to bid, and now we're only finding this now.
correct. So they are not on the plans. The sinks do have this feature, but the other fixtures did not. I did have a conversation with both and explained to them our disappointment and dissatisfaction because, you know, in these situations, who's the only one that gets hurt? It's the client.
Yeah, can I ask a question? So we're looking to, and I'm sorry, we're kind of getting really down, guys, into the details. So you're looking to have the toilets themselves be touchless, correct? So
Correct.
automatic flush?
Correct.
Okay.
So the sinks will have them, all of the fixtures, the
Okay,
paper towels, everything.
dryers. Yeah, okay.
Dryers.
But do we know anything about the sort of maintenance, the functionality of the touchless toilets? I can speak from personal experience that they're often malfunctioning in different ways. I just wonder if at this point the toilets, you know, out of projecting to have fewer maintenance costs moving forward, if we didn't go touchless toilets. I think
I personally cannot answer that question because I am not an expert on these features. But
Do they-
you know,
does
if
it have-
there's a maintenance component, we will get our plumber in to take a look at them.
Yeah, because is there the option that you can also do manual, I would imagine? You know,
right,
'cause
Right, there's a push button on most of these devices as well as an alternate if the auto flush is not working.
I guess I've
Well-
seen them just flushing continually or, you know, otherwise. I don't know, maybe we can,
I've never seen that, but I'm not saying that it does not happen. And we can, the good news is we have a 2-year maintenance agreement on the work, so.
gotcha.
So we had the motion, number 5. By the way, Joe, that project is that project starting like, you know, tomorrow? Like, when is this project starting?
It is, they started the demo,
Thank
so
God.
it's just a matter of getting the material in to do the work, but like everything else, there's back order for certain items. but they're doing their best to get everything in as quickly as possible and installed as quickly as possible. I did give them a time frame that we need to get this done within the first week of April, and hopefully they will be able to do that.
Yeah, so Rocket Ship Park opens, you know, on a good day. You and I will talk about whether we think we need to have to get some portable porta potties down there. What are we doing here? Motion to rescind this cash bond for Pine Hills subdivision. I guess the bond was assigned instead of reimbursed, correct, Brian? Is that what
That's
happened?
correct. Exactly. So the project remains, you know, in status quo. It's not going to change or move forward until it gets the larger bond amount as established by the planning board.
Okay. Number 6, we have some internal promotions, correct? We're very pleased whenever we can promote our labor crew from within, laborer 1 to a 3, bringing in a new heavy equipment operator. It's always great to find, you know, staff at that entry level as well that can jump on a piece of heavy equipment and help Steve operate his equipment at the top of the hill. And then we have a promotion for Elizabeth to become a senior justice court clerk. We have any questions on those staffing issues? It's all good. Well deserved. Number 7 is just a request for Brian and Jake. I'm sorry, Tom Fuller and Brian to go to their conference, managing turf. And then I guess Ron and Stan, who are on the Greens Committee there, to go to the Metropolitan Golf Association seminar. They brought back some really good ideas last time. I'm always in favor of education. Any questions on number 7? Comes out of the country club budget. This is number 8 is our tax assessor had brought this to our attention. We had made a provision during the pandemic to allow a senior citizen's disability exemption to roll, let's so to speak, without the seniors having to come in and refile. I'd like to do that again for this year because we're still not out of the woods with some of our seniors and feeling comfortable coming down and filling out applications with us. I think it's a total of maybe 9 to 11 households. I think it's the right thing to do to help take care of our senior citizens. Otherwise, this is an exemption that has to be filed each year annually. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I think it was 8 applications that we did not receive from last year.
Okay. Kevin is asking for permission to attend a parking forum in Massachusetts. I think anytime you travel and you bring back ideas and share information, it's good that comes out of the parking budget. Make sure you nail down dates of hotel, et cetera, et cetera. We are accepting 1 termination from Daniel Bohm. Guess he had a little trouble passing his probation. That's number 10. And then we have, guess the retirement system looking for standard work hours and work days for these electeds, Rebecca and myself. So 6 hours a day. We're doing 6 hours a day of work, right, Rebecca?
At least.
Okay. And then we have the warrants. Well, I mean, I'm not laughing. It seems like it's endless and ongoing. Then we have our general warrants. I did have some questions on the warrants, but I'll deal with those in the treasurer's office on a separate email. I didn't get a chance to get it out off my desk today, Denise.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments on the business agenda? No? Get motion to approve 1 through 12. And is there a second? Motion by Miller, seconded by Snaden. All in favor? It's 4-0. Mr. Laux is not with us. Guys, I'll keep my report real short. I feel like I'm gobbling up all your time. I really apologize for that, but the update on the beach was really important. It's a big decision. Emergency Command Center was pretty much 95% completed. I really want to thank Joe, our building and planning staff, for putting up with all of the disruption up there. Our fire marshals and everybody who weighed in. Kevin Wood helping us with the technology. It's a beautiful new room. It's a huge enhancement to that department up there. I really want to thank Senator Grant Laval. This was Allison Lapointe and our former fire marshal went to visit Senator Laval, and he was gracious enough to provide the DASNY grant money from New York State. We built it. Now we'll get reimbursed, but this room is, I think, going to be important during some of these storms where, we shouldn't be in the middle of a flood zone down here at Village Hall. We should be in higher ground where the gas tanks are and the generators are and all of the crew is. So we find this room to become very effective. And I want to thank everybody for making that happen. It started under Mayor Lee and takes a long time sometimes to complete somebody else's vision. I don't know if you guys knew that I was a member of the Stony Brook Council. Stony Brook University, we get together once every 3 months and get to hear the president's report and all of unbelievable things that are happening at Stony Brook. This is the 50th anniversary of the Health Sciences Center. There's a lot going on with Stony Brook, and they have a new dean of executive vice president of health and sciences. It's great to hear from him. Exciting stuff. I think I reported last time, Governor's Island. There are 4 people left, and Stony Brook University is one of the 4 finalists. It'll be a new institute for climate change. It's really exciting to see Stony Brook involved, and these things are impacting the global climate changes. On the athletic front, they've joined the Colonial League, which puts them into a higher league for competition. It's fantastic for the scholar athletes that are at Stony Brook University. Budget's in good place, and there's a lot going on at the university. I like to report, and because they are our #1 economic engine down here in the village of Port Jeff. National Grid, Bruce Miller put together, and we attended a Zoom meeting with National Grid and some of the other electeds around Long Island to learn about a really fascinating hydro hub initiative. NYSERDA is going to be making application for New York to become one of the country's hydro hubs. Our plant will play a role in that. And hydrogen energy is an up and coming form of clean energy. And I'm really, one thing about this job is that you never know what else you're going to learn about, what day it is and what else you're going to learn about, because it's just so dynamic and exciting. On that note, Sheep Pasture Road, Brian and I, in the meeting with Englebright and Palumbo, we discussed the zombie house up at Sheep Pasture. We completed our lien search. Assemblyman Englebright has committed $1 million to preserve and secure this property as probably one of the most significant properties. Certainly could be the oldest in the village of Port Jefferson, possibly the oldest in the town of Brookhaven. Brian, you want to?
Yeah, just launching over that, Mayor, I've instructed Rich Harris to move forward, but on one hand, we have to keep the 2 hands separate. On the other hand, I also just placed a call to the lender directly to try to get their counsel on board to find out what's happening in the status of that, and that we are seriously contemplating eminent domain on that for both historic preservation and parkland purposes. Those are proper purposes under general municipal law. So I'll have that further conversation with them. We have a locked-in appraisal, so we already have that amount on what that is, and that's where we'll be going from, regardless of what the number is. I don't want to have that number get out there and think that that's the tail that wags the dog. But what I am moving forward with that, Mayor, and I'll report back to this board whether we can actually have an informal conclusion. Mayor, you've been effective with that tool in Upper Port Jefferson on a couple of occasions in cleaning up that blight. So maybe lightning again will strike as you throw the thunderbolt at this property.
Yeah. So he will be entering into an IMA with the state, to bootstrap and suspend the village from having any financial liability towards this project. So we'll finalize that agreement, and we're trying to wrestle this property free because it's one of 7 that are secured by the same lien. It was become part of a foreclosure. So legally, it was very complicated. But
Yes.
The tool of eminent domain really, that's the sledgehammer, and I'm glad that we took the sledgehammer out because that's what needs to happen. That's a good update. Chamber of Commerce meets tonight. I just want to congratulate the new directors that are being inducted. Working well with the chamber, very active. Businesses are getting ready for spring. You can feel the ground rumbling underneath your feet. School district has got a capital committee, listening in on that with Kathy Ann. They'll be doing some tours. They got some significant projects to do on campus to secure their buildings and upgrade facilities. It's good to be included and informed. I think that there'll be more forthcoming. The vote won't be happening until October. Outdoor dining, we're going to be going out for applications for outdoor dining. We learned a lot about outdoor dining during the pandemic. We will continue to allow the establishments that had used the sidewalks to continue to use the sidewalks. However, we are discouraging these establishments from using any space in the parking lots. The reason for that is, parking is precious. It was really to help them expand their indoor square footage, but the curbside, the sidewalk dining still allows people to use the sidewalk. They still have to follow those same regulations. Adds a lot of curb appeal and dimension to the village. Wasn't a substantial amount, but we're hoping that the restaurants fare well, and we'll be collecting those applications. And as a matter of policy, we're going to be collecting the fees associated with outdoor dining this year, because I think kind of feel like everybody's back up to normal speed and they're allowed to have 100% capacity inside. Stan is missing, but he did want me to report that applications are still being taken at the country club. I think there is a rate increase. If your application is not made by March 1st, so there's still, time to get your application in before that small increase after March 1st. And he further reports that those members who have already signed up, you may begin to pick up your minimum cards on March 8th at the membership office. Those cards can be used at any of the TPG resort properties, which includes Stanford's in the main dining room at the club. So good report. A lot going on. Definitely feel like we're back up to 100%, running around and having a good time. With that, I'll go to the Deputy Mayor's name.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll try to keep mine short as well. With the parking department, we had a meeting with the Gitos with regard to their parking lot at the CVS location about securing 25 spots there for village use. Those spots will be marked specifically with signage that Kevin is working on putting up for us. So we're very happy about that. We thank the Gito Group. They've always been a great partner with the village, and we love working with them. So we're very, very happy about that. 25 spaces isn't a ton, but it's 25 spaces. Yeah.
Right. And on that note, we're going to be adding the signage that we have at the Barnum parking lot, which shows how many spaces are available to try and capture people from, maybe they've done that first loop and then they see the sign, they see that there's 10 spaces available. They're going to jump into the CVS parking lot. I really want to thank them that expands our parking program. It's a really great partnership.
And that's
Yes.
going to be metered?
No,
That's not going to be metered. Okay.
yeah, just counted.
Yeah, and I think the sign that Margot's talking about is the same one we have at Barnum with the counting spaces. And I agree, people will see it, they'll go past because they'll want to get closer. And when they can't, they'll say, hey, I remember there was 10 spaces left, and they'll go back. And if you notice, as businesses continue to grow and move into the village, that gap between the CVS parking lot area and our downtown is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So I think that walk isn't as big of a deal as it used to be. So I'm really happy about that. With economic development, we have been working on the event, the Doc Dogs event that I mentioned at the last meeting, as well as a music event that was done last summer, and we're trying to expand on that. That's Port Palooza. And I apologize, I don't have the dates in front of me, but I believe July, right?
It was the 10th and the 17th. It was 2 back-to-back weekends.
Mid to end July for those two events. So more to come on those. With our code, yeah.
While you're there, I'm sorry to do this. Partnering with the Conservancy
Yes.
to help raise money. Rebecca, they said that they were working with you on the sculpture, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we want to continue on that initiative. But we were thinking that it would be great for these two, the Portpalooza and for the dog. We're going to have to come up with a name for that thing. If we could raise money, I'd love to put 2 dog watering fountains. I don't and one by Rocket Ship and one at Harborfront Park. I mean, I think it's about time our friendly furry little friends had an opportunity to get a fresh, cold drink of water. So we always look to the Conservancy as the fundraising arm, but I want to give an initiative that we have a goal. And in addition, I think that they were, and Rebecca, you're probably, as part of your report on your initiative with them to raise money for the sculptures that we started like a year ago. So I just add that. Sorry, Kathy Ann.
That's okay. With our code department, we have been addressing enforcement, moving forward with our parking, our meters and our lots and our on-street parking as we open those lots and turn the meters back on for April 1st. We have an upcoming meeting with the Chamber of Commerce to address some of their issues on parking, and as we move forward, like I said, into the opening season, get that going. With public safety, we have been addressing traffic calming, as you all know. We discuss quite often for East Broadway. The 2 signs that we had talked about have been installed up there that state 25 miles an hour in that area, and it also shows the direction of the street, that there's a turn there. The painting of the word slow, very large on the roadway, will be done, I'm hoping sometime in March as the weather warms up for the painting. And the speed trailer, I expect to be up and running back in the works around town mid-March or so. Again, that's dependent on weather. We do have the attachment for that will be able to record the speed, so we can get a better understanding in these neighborhoods of truly what the speed of the traffic is. And we also started to discuss counting, traffic counting, to find out the volume of the vehicles. That machine doesn't do that, but I want to look into ways to, if we can do that with the county or the town. So that concludes my report. Yeah.
Sorry, question on that. If it's recording the speeds of each vehicle, don't we have the number of vehicles that have passed by?
I don't know what the output is. I haven't seen it in the works yet. If it gives an average of speed, I don't know that it really shows every single car that goes by. If it does, then we would know that. I don't know, Joe. Joe, do you have any input on exactly what information it's going to give us? Is it an average speed or is it every vehicle speed?
I believe it's every vehicle speed that goes through. So we should have a count, and we should have the miles per hour. But again, until we see it in action and the actual feature can generate a report for us to look at and dissect, we won't know for sure, but that's my understanding.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
And the other thing with that trailer is because it is solar powered, if it's not getting enough sun, it will kind of shut itself down for a period of time to regenerate, and you might miss the cars that go by at that time. So it's not going to be 100% accurate count versus those counting strips that every car that goes over will get it. So, we'll see as we move forward what those reports look like.
Thanks, Kathy Ann.
You're welcome.
Bruce, Trustee Miller.
Greetings all. Just fleshing out a little bit the conversation that Margot had with us regarding this hydrogen hub. A number of objectives in working with them and seeking them out. We want to get tax revenue producing entities on the property. We want to have good, positive relations with National Grid. And I think we did a bit to accomplish that. They seemed very happy with the enthusiasm for Port Jefferson for this hydrogen project. There are big power plants, base load plants on Long Island, Island Park, Northport. One in the Glen Cove area is already shut down. They're all in the crosshairs. We were talking about Wärtsilä plants to augment solar and wind. It doesn't look like the state's going to permit that. So the hydrogen is something we're pursuing. The state of California, I think I mentioned this earlier, really feels that they cannot accomplish their lofty goals without hydrogen in the future. They are working with the German Chamber of Commerce. Again, there doesn't seem to be a market, but there is a market out there. Porsche is working with the Patagonia area. Apparently they're going to be generating some hydrogen from wind. But we try to emphasize the fact that we have all the factors here. We've got multiple transportation modes. We've got a deep water harbor. And we have a community that is welcoming. They did mention that that there is an RFP. We've talked about this before, for batteries to back up the electrical grid, and they have applied for that for Port Jefferson. So we'll just stay tuned. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. And Rebecca.
Thank you. Just to follow up on more with the concept of the dog water stations, I think that's a wonderful idea. And just want to throw out there, additionally, perhaps if those units could have the bottle filling feature where anyone with a reusable water bottle or a one-time use water bottle can refill it. I know that's been a request that's been made by both our residents and business owners. So it could be a great two-in-one, both for four-legged and two-legged residents, visitors. All right, so looking just quickly, wanted to run by the group for a temperature check with looking at the possibilities and great things that can come uptown. I was looking at the map and Texaco Park came to mind. I know it is sort of one of the lesser utilized parks here in Port Jefferson as the community continues to build up there. That will get more use. And with all of the calls for pickleball going on, I wondered if we might try to reimagine Texaco Park to have a pickleball / basketball hybrid, as we're looking to do with the downtown basketball courts, so that we can have 2 pickleball courts uptown as well, which will help connect our residents to that uptown area. And also have a great amenity for the residents living there. That would take, we measured it out a bit. It would take an expansion of the asphalt. It would intersect the circle that is currently around the flagpole there. So it would take a little bit of redesign to get 2 courts in there. But I do feel strongly, and I talked to Trustee Laux, that would be a great location for this recreational opportunity.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, because it would also help to bring people up there and use the Texaco parking lot, which is underutilized at this point. We'd be happy to take a look at that when Stan gets back. I know I think Renee ordered the temporary lines that she can place down and then lift off, to use the basketball courts down here. I know that's a very controversial issue. I don't think many are in favor of taking away basketball time from our kids. So we can add that to the mix and see what would be involved and try and get a plan.
Sure, very good. So just I'll continue to look at that closely with Stan. Maybe get some facts and figures over to mayor, administrator, and clerk, and see where we go from there. Also wanted to report that from the planning board, the Mather Northwell Master Plan virtual public hearing had to be rescheduled from its original date. Mather Northwell did not do any of the mailings or postings for the original date, so that public hearing was postponed until March 3rd, Thursday, March 3rd. The planning board meeting will start at 6 p.m. and the public hearing for the master plan will start at 6:30 p.m. It will be virtual. If you go to portjeff.com/virtual meetings, you'll be able to see one schematic offered, but there will be a very in-depth presentation, and then of course a opportunity for public comment thereafter. So I'd encourage everyone to look at that, as that's one of the larger projects that is coming through our village. Also, not on the agenda, but I just wanted to ask about the removal of all of the shrubbery around Village Hall today. That was a little shocking as a trustee to come down and see. What was the decision-making behind that? And what is the plan ahead?
I had asked, well, this is part of, I had asked Parks, like, I think it's like 18 months ago, most of the lilac or whatever the shrubbery is in the front, needs to pulled out, replanted, revegetated, paint the wall, fix the cracks, that goes for the wall in the front, all the wall in the back. I'm concerned about the outfall pipes from the roof, pouring water into the wall. So the holly tree also needs to be cut back before it completely overtakes the building. So a leftover project, you can blame me for I'm not sure, pardon me, exactly what extent they pulled out the shrubbery today, but
They pulled out every shrub and it all went to the dump instead of being replanted somewhere. It just, to me, it seems like a shame. I agree that the hollies, need to be cut back. I strongly hope that they are not being, none of the three are being removed. They're the last greenery standing around Village Hall at this time, aside from the blue spruce in the front and the, what's near the roadside. We're looking at all of these water issues, and our plants, shrubs, especially are some of our greatest assets as far as helping with absorption. And so
we're going to be replanting. It's not like we're leaving it barren, but I mean, the shrubbery, we were concerned about the root systems impacting the concrete wall. So, it'll be replanted with, I'll review that plan. That's on me and Joe, I guess. So I'll review with Dave what they're putting there. It's something I had addressed with Karen, and the crew just couldn't get to it, with their schedules in terms of everything else that they had on their plate. So.
Sure. I would just, I guess in the future, if there's plans to remove things like 50-year-old rhododendrons, plants like this can be replanted and would be a huge asset to elsewhere in the village if they cannot remain where they are. It was just, it was shocking and heartbreaking to see. And that's the end of my report.
Okay. Attorney Egan, Brian?
Nope, I think I spoke enough tonight too, Mayor. Thanks.
Okay. Joe, did you speak enough?
I did. I have nothing else to add. Thanks, Mayor.
All right. Have a good vacation. Our
Thank you.
treasurer, Denise, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. It's really nothing to report. I told you that we got the money for Barnum London, our grant money. That's basically, working on the budget
Great.
and cleaning up everything here.
So we had a $200,000 contribution from Suffolk County, thanks to I always want to call him a supervisor. Supervisor Balone? No, Executive Balone.
Super.
County executive.
County Executive. Sorry, I apologize. For supporting the Village of Port Jefferson with the Jumpstart money, $200,000 back in the kitty to use towards other projects. For the Barnum parking lot. And I think, Kathy Ann, one of the things we're discussing is, and I think you're going to have a recommendation, as you had mentioned, for the board to adopt. If there's any changes in the parking program, that'll be for the board to discuss at the March meeting. Managed parking starts April 1, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so, that included some conversation about metering Barnum, but I think we're looking at keeping Barnum exactly the way it is. Is that correct?
Yeah, right now, yes. The input on parking changes with the wind.
Okay.
One business owner wants A, the other one wants B, and it depends on the season and the event and the weekend, and it's a lot. So, you can't please all the people all of the time, is what I've learned. But we're trying to keep everyone as happy as possible and doing what, the consensus is best for them, and taking all the input and making decisions. So when I know more, hopefully at the next board meeting, I can bring, the recommendations at that point. So like I said, the next meeting is with the chamber and some business owners, members of the bid. to get their input, and then we go from there.
Okay, all right, appreciated. Barbara Sakovic, last but never the least. And you're having trouble with your microphone tonight? Can you use sign language?
Barbara, hit the button on your headset. The mute button on your headset. Down towards the middle of the wire. Down towards the middle of the wire.
Your wire? On your wire? On your wire. Listen to us. This is comedy at its best.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yes.
Yay! Okay, so I would just as a follow-up to when Kathy Ann was speaking, the Port Palooza date is July 30th. And the Dock Dog proposed date is the 23rd of July. Both of them are in July, 2 weekends in a row. And our next meeting, don't forget, Monday, March 7th, it's a public meeting. We begin the business meeting at 5 o'clock. Then we'll go upstairs at 6. And I believe we'll be in person, Margot?
What do you guys want to do? In person? You ready?
I vote for in person.
How does everybody feel about that? Good?
Yeah, I know. I'm not going to, I was hoping to stay virtual through March selfishly because I will not, I'll be out of town on the second meeting unavoidably. So
I think, well, you could probably still, and we could actually publish your location if there's a vote that needs to happen so that anybody else who's there, we can discuss that more
Perfect.
with, there are the benefits definitely of being virtual and being remote. There's no doubt about that.
sure. Yeah.
We could
otherwise-
possibly, if we notice where your location, we can zoom you in so you can participate.
Right.
Fabulous.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good. Then I'm comfortable coming back to in person.
You have to get me get me your address ASAP.
So my only question is, if we do that, do I have the ability to make the meeting go on YouTube if we're in person?
Yeah, my understanding is Kevin has that set up. I don't know if it's been tested.
Yeah, but only if when we're up in the courtroom. So the business portion of the meeting down in the conference room would not be, I just want to make sure we have it well thought out, because I really believe that, you know, giving everybody the ability to view these meetings post meeting is good.
Well, I can talk to Kevin. I can talk to Kevin about it
I'll
Okay.
check with him as well.
downstairs. Yeah.
All right, so to be continued. Thanks, guys. Let's get through February. I'm really looking to ending February and going into March. Who else is? Very much so, right? Okay. Thanks for all your hard work. Rebecca, I have one more question for you. The gardening beds, are we done with those, or, I mean, the application process?
Yeah, the application process is done. I just checked in today at the office there in Village Hall. They are just calling and following up, chasing down payment on the last couple of beds. So that's why I'm not reporting on it this time to say that it's finalized, because should we not receive payment or contracts from these last few gardeners, then there will be further gardeners called and, for the opportunity. But we did receive many more applications than we did beds this year. You have beds. And so it is, everyone's very, very excited, and they will be able to begin gardening as early as March 15th. Things like snap peas and whatnot and lettuce can be planted that early.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, you have more, that's a good thing. You have more demand and less supply.
Sure. So I apologize to those who did not get in this year. Try again next year, but we look forward to a great year gardening, and I will announce, in my report first meeting in March that, it's all settled in and final gardeners have been finalized, noted.
Okay, and I have one last question. When do we start the kayak rack lottery thing?
Teresa has the form, and it will be put on this website March 1st.
Okay, so we start accepting applications as of March 1st for kayaks?
Correct.
Okay, it's a big announcement. Let's see if we can push that through social media, because that's also a very popular program that we offer.
Yes, I sent it to them. Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Motion-
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Kevin got back to me super quick, and we can do the live stream from the conference room.
Oh, great. Okay, so he can capture both?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank
So
you.
Rebecca, if you get that address, then you're good.
I'll send it to Barbara.
Thank
Move
you.
to adjourn.
Is there a second? So moved at 5:20. Nicely done, guys. Have a great night.